2, 1. I suppose one would be right in saying that St. Patrick's Day 1924 was the most glorious chapter in the history of Athlone Town AFC. For on that day the town beat Fordsons from Cork to win the Free State Senior Cup for the first and only time. Well folks, it's the Hawk at Large here for Midlands Radio 3 Athlone on 102.1 FM, recalling the nostalgic and successful years of Athlone Town AFC from 1924 up to 1960. And with me are Jimmy Malin, Johnny Keena, Butch Brennan and Joe Gaffey, all lads who played with Athlone Town years ago. And you're very welcome.
Hello, Joe.
How about that for a nice welcome indeed? Now, Joe Gaffey, I suppose it's probably an honour because you're the oldest at the table. You heard so much. I know you can't remember about the win in 1924, but you've heard a lot about it, didn't you?
I heard a lot about it, yes. I heard a lot about it from a man up the country that was at the match.
Yeah.
And he spoke very well of the whole team. Yeah. And Dinny Hannon stood out above all players.
Well, that's a very good question because I'm going to address the whole table on this. As far as you know, how good a player was Jimmy, or was Dinny Hannon, Johnny?
Well, of course, I suppose he spent so many years in football. He was at the end of his career, really, when he won the cup for Athlone. He actually won the cup. He scored the goal that won the cup for Athlone that day.
Butch Brennan, Sligo man, from a great county of soccer players. Did you ever remember, well, you knew Dinny Hannon, but you obviously never saw him play?
No, I had never the pleasure to see Dinny playing, but I knew him very, very well. And I believe from all people saying he was a beautiful footballer.
There you are. No. Jimmy Malin, of course, brother of the greatest judge, Johnny. Was his nickname, lads, Pongo?
Pongo. Yes,
right. You heard of the Bowl Dinny as well?
Well, I when I was younger, I used to go down to the Ranelagh School, and the Athlone senior team was playing at that time. And I saw him, Dinny there, and Joe Monaghan, Sweeney's, Jim Sweeney, Hope. What was the man's name in Sligo, Butch?
Dykes.
Oh, Dykes.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's good because, you know, we could talk all day, I suppose, about 1924 and that period, but we had to get it in, Johnny.
There's a record there, you know, to hold the record that will never, hopefully never be achieved again. They went through the cup competition without a goal scored against them.
Yes,
and I think that seems to be it's a great record to hold.
Can't be beaten anyhow.
No, I hope not.
And strange enough about that, my old friend of years ago was Pa Henry, and I believe Pa himself was an excellent keeper in his time. And he told me that Paddy O'Reilly, the goalkeeper, that went to Rovers and got 5 more medals. Would that be right? I don't know.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, there was an O'Reilly playing all right, but they had different goalkeepers, hadn't they?
Yeah. Is it at Lone Town?
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
at that time.
Okay, lads, look at what we'll do is we'll drift from the 1924 because everybody knows we could talk all day about 1924.
If anyone wants to see the photograph, you can see it in the Royal Hotel.
Ah, very good, Butch. Look, we'll drift right into the 30s, you know. Now, the 30s, you fellas were very, very young in the 30s. I was just about born.
Thanks very much.
Now, the reason I said that, Johnny, I'm going to stick this one at you. The 30s was a very spectacular year as well because...
Well, I suppose the number one, they bought their own ground, which is a very important thing, St. Mel's Park. They bought that in 1934. Prior to that, I think they used to play, as Jimmy said, in the Ranelagh. They used to play in the Meadows. Actually, I seen them playing out in Cornamah. My first game of soccer I ever seen was out in the rugby ground in Cornamah. They were playing some, don't tell me who they were.
Rock Rovers.
Joe Gaffey, the reason I'm addressing you in the 30s is because your own brother Mickey, he played a big part, didn't he?
He did. He played a big part in the 1934-38 team when they won the cup twice, 1934 and 1938. And at one particular stage, they were in Dalymount Park playing the semi-final of the cup, and they ended up with only 8 players on the team. On the field at one particular time. They were all going off and on
there was no
injured.
Subs.
There was no subs.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well done. Now, Butch very shrewdly said, forget it for him for the 30s. Would indeed. Jimmy Malin, once again, it comes back to you. You should have vivid memories because poor old Johnny did his stuff, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well, the junior team, is it? Or,
the junior team.
Well, I remember Joe Gaffey might be playing on this team. Peter Malloy's team.
Yes,
The under 14.
that's right. Celtic.
And Peter Malloy's team beat us 1-0.
You were Shamir.
Yeah.
Shamir,
But I've a mark in my leg here that I got in the shin
One of many.
from Tommy Smullen.
Yes, John.
No, on the 1938 Cup final in Dublin, a crowd of us, it was the first time to go to Dublin. We were all in our early teens, and we got up to Dublin for 3 and 4pence return on the train. The team that beat Bendigo United. And it was an extraordinary thing. There was an Athlone boy playing for Bendigo, but he was deaf. He was dummy, to see the poor lad. Dummy Malloy, they call him. But we used to wonder, he would never naturally hear the whistle, you see, and Tom Joyce was the left full back that was playing on him, and poor Tom eventually got vexed with him because he wouldn't stop when the whistle went. But they won easily. But the 3 and 4pence return those days, that was my first trip to Dublin, 1938.
Well, that brings us back, because off here we all talked about the price of a pair of football boots in the 30s or 40s. Butch?
7 and 6.
How about that? What about an old ball, Joe? What about the football? How much was that?
roughly 7 shillings.
Are you listening out there? How about that? Now, there was no radio. There was certainly no television. So everybody made their own sport, didn't they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, down football.
Oh, I never left a ball out of my pocket. Going to school, I always had a tennis ball, and you'd be pelting the ball up and down the hills.
Sure.
You know, after now, people ask me, could you have a marvellous kick of ball? How did you manage? I told them about.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
great exercise.
exactly. Yeah.
So they are running to the 30s, folks, there. And if you're just out there listening, we're talking about the nostalgic years of Athlone AFC here with the lads, and we're going to take a little break for music or for something else, and then we'll see you for part 2. But just before we do break for part 2, lads, that in the 30s, if you were playing your football and the sing-along, the songs were in the 30s, the Isle of Capri, Old Faithful, Red Sails in the Sunset, Serenade in the Night, Harbour Lights, and South of the Border. Just to keep you informed, we'll see you for part 2. So you're all welcome back to part 2, folks, and if you just joined us, well, we're sort of recollecting the nice years of Athlone Town from 1924 right through the 60s. From Jimmy Malin, Butch Brennan, Joe Gaffey and Johnny Keane. Lads, we're talking about the 30s there. There's one question I'd like to put, not even a question, it's a statement. Frank Brennan was supposed to have been with us today in this interview, and he's a little bit down with his chest. I'm sure everyone in turn would like to say something to Frank. Johnny.
Oh yes, Frank Brennan, he was a great centre forward and a hard man to play against. I did play against him in the local leagues, but he certainly gave great service to Athlone. He scored one of the goals that day against Bendigo United in the Cup.
Joe, you remember Frank well?
I played with Frank, and I played against Frank, and he was one hard man to play against, and he was a hard man to get the ball off. He got gathered round his body round the ball, and it was very hard to take it off.
Butch Brennan, you would have met Frank Brennan probably in the 40s.
No, I didn't know Joe very well now, or Jack.
Frank.
I didn't know Frank very well. I didn't play much against Frank, but I only wish with Frank to take it well.
Well done, Butch. Jimmy, you remember Frank Brennan well. Jimmy Malin.
Frank is a cousin of mine. But
That's very good.
all I'd like to say now is I hope he gets very well.
That's great. Excellent.
We'll all be happy to see Frank.
Frank, well, that's very nice. Lads, the lads who got capped in that decade, how many can you remember, Joe?
I can remember Johnny Malin, Turlough O'Connor, Chick Henry, Ruby Barlow. I think Paddy Farrell that went to Hibernians in Scotland after he was capped. He would play with Bowes, and then he went on to Hibernians.
Yes. The reason I'm just looking through my notes there was a fella by the name, lads, of Charlie something. Charlie Turner, no, Charlie. Do anybody remember him? Was it Charlie something? He got 5 caps. I had it here in my notes in the 30s. I can't just find it now. We might get back to it. Okay, we're going to leave the 30s there. We left the 30s actually with 2 FAI Cups. Isn't that right, lads? Junior Cups.
The Leinster Junior Cup and the FAI Junior Cup in 34 and 38. Yes.
Not a bad record. So we'll just browse onto the 40s, and I'm going to zoom in on Butch Brennan, because Butch, I suppose, was into his own then with the 20 Battalion, who were a great force at that period. Butch, what's your early recollections of the 40s with football in Athlone?
I think 1942-43, we won the Midland League twice. We had some great players, Paddy Clark, Mr. Bradley, I don't hope he's alive, myself, Bomber Keys, Maxie McCullough, and
One Curtin, no? One Curtin.
and oh no, you know, Banks, Banks married to Peter's daughter, Peter Malloy's daughter, our sister. So that's the only recollection I could have.
Of that particular area. So that brings us right, lads, into the Midland League. At that period was the big one. I suppose everybody, it was, as Butch told us off there, it was Tullamore, Longford, Mullingar, the local counties. Has anybody here any sort of memories at all of the Midland League? Johnny?
Well, Milby Allen from Clara, he was the original instigator of the Midland League, a tremendous fella. I don't know whether he's still alive or not now, but he was a great name in that particular competition. No, just to get to Mullingar, Tullamore and Longford in those days, it was a great achievement, you know. Well, it was, of course, we were never in those towns until we got the Midland League going. So soccer has been very good to us in that sense, you know.
Well, I was playing with Keltoom in the Midland League, and we cycled over to Clara, played a match in Clara, paid for our own cup and tea, and cycled home after beating Clara. And the 20 Battalion beat us in the final.
That was the 20 Battalion, was it?
Yes, beat us in the final with a spectator blowing a whistle, and one of the lads caught the ball in the penalty area, and that's how we were beaten.
Jimmy Millin, did you ever remember the Midland League?
Well, I went up to 1939. I got a job in the Curragh, and I wasn't long there, and I signed up for Newbridge Rangers. So I played 2 years there. You know, it was all those lower grade teams in Inchicore, around there, that area.
So I suppose the 40s lads kind of came and went, Johnny. Would you say that, like, you know, the 40s with the war intervening? What type? Yes.
All we had then, now it's not unfair to say it, but we just had the Midland League then. We were anxious to get back into the Dublin end of it. So in 1947 then we got back into the AUL, which was a very, very strong competition in those days. Division 1 of the AUL. And we was it 1947?
No, it was later, because Johnny, I hate now, I left the army in 1946. 1946, I went straight into Gentex, and I left Gentex, and old Midge Moran, Lord be good to him, asked me to sign for Longford, and I signed for Longford, and I played for Longford for 2 years. So I came back and I met Tommy Farrell, and Tommy said, so you were going back to the AUL, but will you ever come back? So I certainly. So I came back and I started playing with Athlone.
That's right.
Well, there you were, but
I'd be happy about 494.
Joe Gaffey.
I remember 5 of us cycled over to Longford to see a match with Longford and Drumcondra, and there was 5 Athlone players on that Longford team. There was Nipper Farrell, Packy Shine, Johnny Millin, Christy Fallon, and Bill Sparlow.
Very good. So it was after the war Athlone went into AUL Division 1, 1947-48, Butch. So there you are. But lads, anyway, time is not on our side. We've a bit to go yet. But Players of the 40s. Now, folks outside there, and you might ring in here at Athlone 73777 is our number. If we leave somebody out, it's not intentional, because we're going to mention some people. Jimmy, in the 40s you were away, so we'll give you a rest. Butch Brennan, through the 40s, who are the players you kind of remember in Athlone time, in Athlone Town at that time, during the 40s?
Now, during the 40s, I think Jerry Dempsey was one. Joe Flynn, the best keeper I think I've seen, with the Lord of Mercy and Bobby Brown. Now, Peter Malloy used to play with us that time. He was very, very good. Willie Hand, Joe Fallon, Paul Martin Nolan, Jimmy Millin, Johnny Keena, well then another lad, Brendan Sullivan, he went off to England.
Well, that's not a bad litany, Butch. Fair juice here. A little bit before my time, maybe another 10 years, I would have reckoned to that team. Joe Gaffey, the 40s, what's your recollection of players? How did you knew?
Well, players, the 1940s was, something the crowd that Butch is after mentioning there.
Was Turlough O'Connor Sr. out that time?
O'Connor was one great player. He was a great centre half at that time. And then there was Pat Dempsey.
Yeah.
They were early 40s.
Johnny Keena, Athlone didn't achieve much through the 40s, did it?
No, unfortunately, no. But you see, we've been quite a while out of football, of real competitive. Now, we had the Midland League start, all right, but out of the real competitive football was the Dublin Leagues. We have to admit that. No, we didn't keep fanning, but we played the game, I suppose, and that was very important. And we kept it going. And we kept it going until, our first trophy was in 1962, I think. We won the Leinster Junior Cup. But 1954, we almost won the FAI Junior. You know, we had three games in the semi-final.
We weren't too bad. So as we wind up, we say, folks, part two, I think this is. You know, with all the chat we have here, I'm even forgetting where I am. And we'll see it for part three. But once again, folks, you know, out there, if you were going on the football matches and you came home and you were singing the songs of the 40s, well, you'd be singing Bless 'Em All. We'll meet again. The lads are laughing here. Lily Marlene, cruising down the river. How about that? Well, they probably sum up the 40s. We'll see you for part three. Thank you. So you're very welcome back to part three, folks, recollecting all the nice times and recollections of Athlone Town from 1924 up to the 60s. And at this stage, we're at the 50s, Jimmy Millin. Now, you're the guy that probably remembered, well, the Sligo players, Matty Burns, etc.
Two Hineses. Well, I don't know at what period they came up at, Johnny.
Well, you had Midge Hines, as we used to call him.
No, but what period did they come?
1950s.
Oh, the 50s.
Matty, you're talking about all periods.
Oh,
You're talking
yeah.
about Matty there.
Yeah, Matty Burns, Peter Malloy.
Yeah. Oh, they gave us great service, you know, all the years.
So you played with Matty Burns, you knew Matty well?
I played against Matty and I played for, do you remember them, Connacht and Leinster?
Yes.
I was playing with Leinster
That's right, yes.
and we made Sligo team,
Oh, great.
you see.
So there was Matty Burns, there was also Butch's brother, God rest him, Charlie Brennan.
Charlie and Monaghan, what was
Eddie Monaghan.
Eddie Monaghan, Downey Hines, and wait, no, there was Cocky Scanlon.
Well, Jimmy, well done. Butch, coming from Sligo, you must have remembered all those fellas growing up.
I know every one of them. And as a matter of fact, we had Goggy Scanlon playing with Gentex.
That's right, I remember him myself.
You remember him? Well, Matty Burns, Charlie, my own brother, God be good to him, and the two Hines, Midge and John. I knew them all, and they were very good players.
Great. Johnny,
Yes, sir.
the highlight of the 50s, the early 50s, was what?
1954, of course, when we played, we got into the semi-final of the FAI Junior Cup. So we thought we had it won. Actually, we were drawn against. We were very lucky in the draws too. We got the semi-final in Athlone against Ireland, and we had the famous poor Lord rest Peter Malloy was playing at centre half for us, and we had Jimmy Millin as right full. So we had a great team. I was honoured to be with them. But we had 2 draws. A draw in Athlone, a draw in Dublin, and then 2 nights later, it was a little bit late. I suppose the FAI Junior Council, they wanted to get finished the competition, and they brought us back up to Dublin on the Tuesday evening, 2 days after the game in Dublin.
But I believe Iron had a fellow by the name of Davenport in goal.
That's very good, true, and it was very hard to beat him. Goalkeepers.
Jimmy.
You couldn't get a ball past. He was capped. Davenport was capped 6 times, junior international.
That's excellent.
Peter Malloy missed a penalty against him in Athlone. That was the killer, yeah. And I'll always remember Peter running up the park, and the ground was nearly shaking under the poor man, and he was swearing, "Oh my God, I'd take it."
Joe Gaffey, at that period you were probably a spectator because you'd gone out of the game, really.
I remember one particular match, I was picked for the Midland League against the Dublin League, and Davenport was playing in goal. Yeah, and there was several fellows from Clara, Tullamore, Ballymahan and Longford, and they were to play the Scottish juniors in Kilkenny. I wasn't picked. I was on that trial, all right, with a first cousin of my own, Tom Thompson from Ballymahan.
Oh dear. That's Tommy Thompson.
No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So the 50s as well, lads. Well, players who come to mind from the 50s, Butch. From the 50s now, think.
50s.
Not the Jim Highland era, I suppose.
In the 50s, I was picked against Scotland in the Midlands. And the man sitting on my right here is Jimmy Millin. And may I thank for it, because he kept me running around Rafferty's field. I was nearly blue in the face.
That's great. Well done. Very good. I remember that particularly.
Jimmy, of the 50s, is there anyone who stands out in your mind in Athlone, playing for Athlone in the junior?
No, but there's so many. But I think the best kid now I saw in the forward line was Noel Connor.
Noel O'Connor, that's very good, lad.
Now I met him a few times, because when I was going out with the football, you see, we went up to play Newbridge Rangers, and Noel put in 4 goals. 4 goals.
He was good.
He was